This is the first non-movie review episode of Let's Talk Godzilla. This week we're going to cover my favorite Godzilla movies. These are not entirely in order per se, but number 1 and 2 are my actual top 2. Let's get started with number 5, Godzilla vs. Biollante. This is the only Heisei film on the lineup and is a genuinely solid movie. It has an overall good story that has a very different structure to the rest of the Godzilla series, more resembling the earlier Showa movies, where Godzilla is the primary threat who progresses through Japan, with the military trying to stop him, while another plot is happening with the other monster. The effects work in this movie, and what was cut from this movie is fantastic, but I will save that for the discussion of the actual movie. Number 4, Shin Godzilla. I think Shin Godzilla is genuinely one of the best films in the series, and arguably could be considered the best of the series. This is the first entry in the Shin series. The concept of the Shin series is to take the series back to its roots, using the early concepts of the characters and making a new movie set in the modern day about them. Shin Kamen Rider goes to the darker, more horror-like storytelling of the original Kamen Rider manga and the first 13 episodes. Shin Ultraman takes the ideas of Ultraman being an alien who's fascinated by humans, while mixing it with international relations with Japan. Shin Godzilla takes the idea that the original movie was a parallel to the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but instead this movie parallels the Fukushima disaster and the governmental response to it. Another note, the film's soundtrack is phenomenal, composed by Shuro Sagisu. It is perfect for this movie. Number 3, Godzilla Final Wars. Final Wars is one of the craziest movies in the series. I saw this movie so many times as a kid and loved it because it's a crazy action movie with bike chases, martial arts, Matrix ripoffs, and Godzilla going up against the most monsters he's ever fought. This one doesn't really have the most engaging of stories, but it is fun to watch. Most of the movie's appeal is pure spectacle, and it nails that perfectly. Pure blast to watch, love it to death. Number 2, Godzilla vs. Hedorah, the only Showa entry on the lineup, and is my second favorite Godzilla movie of all time. Godzilla vs. Hedorah is a strange movie, made by a newbie director who had a wild idea and made a bizarre movie. Godzilla is a metaphor for the atomic bombings and its repercussions. Hedorah is that, but for pollution. The movie is played in such a strange way, and I just love it for it. The strange visuals, animation, the dream sequences, and some genuinely horrific shots, and a genuinely credible threat in the monster Hedorah. This movie is controversial among the fans, but it doesn't need to be. I think it is one of the greatest movies ever of the series. Number 1, Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. My favorite film in the series. This movie is great. The story of Akane and her arc to redeem herself in her eyes, with her battle consisting of the guilt over the death of her teammates, the ridicule she receives because of it, and her getting a second chance and learning that life has meaning again. And then getting to combat the problem that caused all this trauma, literally. This movie is more Akane versus Godzilla than Mechagodzilla versus Godzilla. Also, the Mechagodzilla plot in this movie is phenomenal. It is the best incarnation of this character ever. So that's just a taste of my favorite Godzilla movies and why they are my favorites. Next week, we ask the public what their favorite film in the series is and why in the Let's Talk Godzilla G-Fest special. I'll see you there. Even though this is actually being shot before the convention and I'm filming that episode before this episode goes live, so it doesn't even matter.